Even breathing this kind of air
says
for
he is
an
taking
hour.
the government
China
to
has
court
16 of the
because all
world's
this
top
smog.
20 polluted
Beijing is
cities.
suffering through a week of danger.
The development and growth of the Chinese economy began with the economic reforms in 1978, marking the shift towards a market-based economy. Since then, China has been experiencing rapid economic and social growth. Despite playing a huge role in improving the living standards and lifting over 500 million out of poverty, this rapid growth of the Chinese economy has brought about its own set of challenges regarding the issues of urbanization, relocation of civilians to cities, and environmental sustainability. China's 5-year plan aims to reduce energy consumption per unit of GDP and focuses on environmental protection, energy reduction, and land conservation. According to the World Bank, China has 16 of the top 20 cities with the worst air quality. The major causes of the air pollution stem from the shift towards industrialization, along with the increasing use of heavy metal smelting, coal burning, and the soaring number of cars.
Air pollution in China has led to serious health impacts, including birth defects and complications, premature mortality, and cancer-related respiratory symptoms. A study released in 2014 by the U.S. National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences showed that in heavily polluted areas, low birth weights were twice as likely and preterm births were 2.5 times more likely. Similarly, according to China's Ministry of Health, birth defects have increased about 70% in China over the past 2 decades. Furthermore, in 2002, the World Health Organization reported that current air pollution levels were responsible for over 300,000 premature deaths annually in China. Scientists have shown that risk of respiratory disease and morbidity prevalence increases with the outdoor concentration of total suspended particles, which has been skyrocketing in China. The pollution has also given rise to what are called cancer villages, geographic areas of people with a greater than expected number of cancer cases. In the past 30 years, deaths related to lung cancer have increased by over 460%, causing it to become China's most deadly cancer. Other examples of health effects of air pollution include chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, weakening of the immune system, and reduction in lung function. In addition to negative health impacts, air pollution also affects the social and political environments in China.
Regarding employment trends, China has been struggling to attract foreign talent. Due to the alarming levels of air pollution, some Western companies now offer danger pay and the option of relocating employees' families away from Beijing. The pollution has also pushed China's best and brightest to emigrate. A recent survey found that as many as a quarter of the country's residents would consider leaving because of the poor air quality. In a poll conducted by the American Chamber in China, nearly half of the companies in 2014 indicate that the bad air is affecting recruitment. China's leading cities could experience a brain drain as professionals move to cleaner cities such as Singapore, or decide not to come to China in the first place. The heavy industries in China are also shifting overseas due to the growing concerns over industrial pollution. China plans to relocate steel, cement, and glass factories to countries in Africa, South America, East Europe, and the rest of Asia, as these productions are regarded as major sources of pollution.
Demonstrators have gathered in Shanghai to protest against plans to open a lithium battery factory.
Another collateral damage of pollution for the ruling Communist Party is the growing social unrest, as more and more citizens gain awareness of the health threats and means of organized protest. The economic and health costs of the environmental crisis are not limited to China, as they extend beyond the country's borders. Pollutants within China's atmosphere have transcended to neighboring countries, such as Japan and Korea, via the natural movement of wind. Sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides from China's coal-fueled power plants have been shown to fall as acid rain in Seoul and Tokyo.
China has been forced to act as pollution has become a major
Until
public
2011, state media held fog as responsible for the poor visibility in the capital, while government meteorologists denied that smog was a result of emissions. However, this denial has disappeared. In March 2014, Premier Li Keqiang promised to declare war on pollution. This resulted in policy shifts at every level of the government. Similarly, when President Obama visited Beijing for the APEC summit, he and President Xi Jinping signed a joint agreement in which China promised to curb the growth of greenhouse gas emissions by 2030. The 10-point plan referenced by Lee, also known as the State Council Action Plan on Prevention and Control of Air Pollution, presents a set of state-led and market-driven devices for reducing particulate levels by 10% from 2012 to 2017. The plan expresses China's goals to lessen multi-pollutant emissions through the reduction of inefficient coal power plants, as well as the utilization of better transport systems and higher quality fuels in hopes of improving urban traffic pollution. The plan looks to modify the industrial structure by eliminating inefficient production in high polluting industries, holding new investment projects to higher levels of efficiency, and dismissing illegal investment projects that violate current laws. Similarly, the government aims to increase its shift towards natural gas and other cleaner forms of energy. The plan also sets forth improvements in legal and supervisory standards to enforce existing laws.
Through these regulations, it is clear that the target sector is coal-fired power plants and road transport. However, most often the emission standards are adopted first, followed by fuel quality standards with some delay. Oil companies are reluctant to make investments in cleaner fuel, and they play a powerful role in emission regulation in the road transport sector. Therefore, an important challenge for China is to exert its will against the powerful oil companies. The challenges associated with reducing power plant emissions are the cheap price of coal and the fact that it is used to produce 70% of China's energy. However, it is important to note China's investments in alternative energy, including solar power and wind. China's move to renewables could not only reduce air pollution and adverse health impacts within China, but also reduce the impact of global climate change. Using Donella Meadows' system framework as a reference, the issue of air pollution in China and its consequences can be represented by the following system. The amount of air pollutants in China can be considered as a system stock. Various factors, such as the high level of coal burning and the soaring increase in new infrastructure resulting from the rapid rate of industrialization, will cause the levels of air pollutants to skyrocket. The increasing level of air pollutants will decrease China's air quality and therefore escalate into the deterioration of Chinese public health. The worsening public health quality and the living standards can negatively impact the social, economic, and political environments in China. These impacts will change how China continues to develop as they seek to address the issues of environmental protection and public well-being. This, therefore, will create a balancing feedback loop to counteract the rapid rate of industrialization.
Like all systems, this system contains several system traps that work against the optimal functioning of the system. The first one is policy resistance. As major actors in this system, large oil companies attempt to use their power and resources to influence government policies in their favor. Similarly, the air pollution issue in China is a representation of the tragedy of the commons. Private and state-owned companies, central and local governments acting in self-interest led to severe degradation, and this degradation is also affecting neighboring Korea and Japan. Furthermore, China has been seeking the wrong goal, or at least an incomplete goal, for the last decade through the sole pursuit of economic growth. In the process of achieving this goal, the country has undermined aspects such as health, environment, and the economy. Moreover, this system suffers from a bounded rationality through the use of arbitrary system boundaries on a provincial as well as a national basis. It fails to acknowledge the full extent of the adverse impacts of environmental degradation on all other aspects of life. Similarly, it is essential to be mindful of ubiquitous delays within the system once the appropriate goals have been identified. There are several key leverage points where interventions are possible to bring about improvements in this system. These leverage points include regulating negative feedback loops, changing the rules of the system, changing the goals of the system, and ultimately changing the paradigm. China has already identified the need to incorporate regulations relating to the environment. It is now important to regulate the negative feedback loops, such as the influence of the oil companies in China and the focus on short-term gains. the system rules allow the Chinese government to create restrictions, quotas, or policies that help reform the development strategy. Changing the goals of the system puts pressure on China to shift its goals to incorporate sustainability and well-being of its citizens. Finally, the last leverage point is to transform the mindset out of which the system has arisen and acknowledge and take action against the adverse impacts of air pollution.
It is essential for China, a country that has ranked rapid economic growth over everything else, to now utilize the leverage points to overhaul the system being presented here. Having successfully strategized good air pollution goals, it is crucial that a viable implementation strategy is put into action and enforced. As a result of the permeability between regions, it is vital that there is coordination between local governments. Similarly, shared responsibility of the environment should be encouraged at the individual as well as the community level. In the short term, controlling pollution will have an impact on the economy due to higher costs of compliance and potentially lower production. This will force the government to further sacrifice growth in its effort to tackle the problem. However, in the long term, a transition to a more environmentally friendly economy will likely boost and sustain economic growth.